Hello, thanks for watching this C# support video. In this week's challenge, we have to write a function that can work out which of two numbers is larger. So we need to focus on what a function is, how to call a function, how to return a value from a function, and what parameters and arguments are. So let's take a look at our problem. We have to write a function and we're not given the function template here. We know the function's called which is larger. It has two parameters. Parameters are the input data variables that we get. They're both integers, those are whole numbers, and we return, that means the result of our function is going to be which of the two parameters is larger. So in Python, you would create a function with which is larger, and then you just put the parameter names like P1 and P2, and then you'd be able to work it out like this. In C# it's slightly different. We need to specify the return type, which is going to be an integer, and we have to say the accessibility modifier, is it going to be public or private? We want this to be public. Any part of the program can access it. And I'm appreciating that I haven't explained what static means in lessons yet. Let's give you a definition and then we'll add more weight and understanding and context to that as we go through the course. Static means that you don't need an instance of the current class in order to be able to call this method or function or procedure. So don't worry too much about that at the moment, but when we do object-oriented programming and we talk about classes and instance of classes and objects, that will make much more sense. For now, this is how to create a function. We need to specify the data type of the parameters, so int and int. And then we want to return one of them. So which one? Well, if P1, caps lock, P1 is greater than P2, then we can return, what do I mean by return? That means the value that this function gives back to another part of the program. So if P1's bigger than P2, P1 is bigger, that's the number we give back. Otherwise, that means if P2 is bigger or they're both the same, we can return P2. And if they are both the same, it doesn't matter if we return P1 or P2 because they're both the same. So this should work, but there is a more efficient way of doing this in terms of lines of code, which takes your conditional expression here and uses that within an expression. So this is called a ternary syntax. We're saying I either want to return P1 or P2 based on a question, a condition. What is that condition? Well, it's what we had in our if statement. So if P1 is greater than P2, then our expression is just going to evaluate to P1. That means all of this would just be P1. However, if P1 is not greater than P2, our expression is just going to be P2. So you might not like this for readability. You can still choose to have the if statement, but let's just prove that this works, hopefully. It's a really nice shorthand way of avoiding having to write if statements in line with any other part of your program.